Chapter 11 Afterdeath Choices and the Mechanics of Transition. There are unlimited varieties of experience open to you after death, all possible, but some less probable than others, according to your development. Very generally now, there are three main areas, though exceptions and extraordinary cases can take other roads. You may decide upon another reincarnation. You may decide to focus instead upon your past life, using it as the stuff of new experience. As mentioned previously, creating variations of events as you have known them, making corrections as you choose. Or you may enter another system of probability entirely, and this is quite apart from a reincarnational existence. You will be leaving all thoughts of continuity of time behind you in such a case. Now, some individuals, some personalities, prefer a life organization bound about past, present, and future in a seemingly logical structure, and these persons usually choose reincarnation. Others naively prefer to experience events in an extraordinarily intuitive manner, with the organization being provided by the associative processes. These will choose a system of probabilities for their next main endeavor. Some simply find the physical system not to their liking, and in such a way take leave of it. This cannot be done, however, until the reincarnational cycle, once chosen, is completed, so the last choice exists for those who have developed their abilities through reincarnation as far as possible within that system. Some, finished with reincarnation, may choose to re-enter the cycle acting as teachers, and in such cases some recognition of higher identity is always present. Now, there is an in-between stage of relative indecision, a mid-plane of existence, a rest area comparatively speaking, and it is from this area that most communication from relatives occurs. This is usually the level that is visited by the living in projections from the dream state. Before the time of choosing, however, there is a period of self-examination, and your full quote-unquote history becomes available to you. You understand the nature of the entity, and you are advised by other portions of that entity more advanced than yourself. You will become aware of your other reincarnational selves, for example. There will be emotional ties with other personalities whom you have known in past lives, and some of these may supersede your relationships in the immediately past life. This is a meeting place for individuals from your own system also, however. All necessary explanations are given to those who are disoriented. Those who do not realize that they are dead are here told of their true condition, and all efforts are made to refresh the energies and spirits. It is a time of study and comprehension. It is from this area that some disturbed personalities have those dreams of returning to the physical environment. It is a place of commerce between systems, so to speak. Conditions and development are important, rather than the length an individual stays in this area. It is an intermediary step, but an important one. In your dreams, you have been here. Reincarnation involves far more than a simple decision to undergo another physical existence. In this in-between period of which I am speaking, many issues, therefore, are considered. When most people think of reincarnation, they think in terms of a one-line progression in which the soul perfects itself in each succeeding life. This is a gross simplification. There are endless varieties of this one theme, individual variations. The process of reincarnation is used in many ways, therefore, and in this time of rest, individuals must decide on the unique way in which reincarnation will be of use. Some, for example, choose to isolate various characteristics in a given life and work on these almost exclusively, basing a given existence upon, say, one main theme. As seen from a physical viewpoint, such a personality would appear very one-sided, and far from a well-developed individual. In one life, the intellect may purposely be very high, and those powers of the mind carried as far as the individual can take them. These abilities are then studied thoroughly by the entire personality, both the benefits and the detrimental aspects of the intellect weighed carefully. Through experience in another life, this same kind of individual might specialize in emotional development and purposely underplay intellectual abilities. Again, the physical picture would not be necessarily that of a well-developed or balanced personality. Specific creative abilities might be specialized in the same matter. If you look at these lives as a series of progressions in usual terms, then you would be left with many questions unanswered. Nevertheless, the development does occur, but the individuals choose the way in which they prefer this development to take place. Through denying themselves, say, intellectual development in a given life, personalities also learn the value and purpose of that which they do not possess. The desire for it is then born within them. If, for example, earlier they did not understand the purposes of the intellect. So, in the time of choosing, personalities decide upon the ways in which they will develop in the following incarnation. Some will choose progression at an easier rate and in a more balanced manner. They will help keep all the strands of personality working at once, so to speak, and even meet again and again people they have known in other lives. They will work out problems at a rather easy rate, rather than in, say, an explosive way. They will pace themselves, as dancers do. In this time of rest and choosing, all counsel is given. Some personalities do reincarnate before they are advised to, for many reasons. This is usually unfortunate in the short run, for the necessary planning has not taken place. But in the long run, great lessons will still be learned from the quote-unquote error. There is no time schedule, and yet it is very unusual for an individual to wait for anything over 3 centuries between lives, for this makes the orientation very difficult, and the emotional ties with Earth have become weak. The relationships for the next life have to be settled upon, and this involves telepathic communication with all those who will be involved. This is a time, then, of many projections. There are those who are simply loners, who reincarnate without any great feeling for Earth's historical periods. There are others who like to return when their contemporaries from some particular past historical time return again, and therefore there are group patterns that involve reincarnational cycles in which many, but not all, are involved. Now, there are personal cycles, of course, in which families may reincarnate, taking different relationships to each other. There are different depths to be probed in reincarnational existences. Some choose to, quote-unquote, go all the way. These personalities specialize in physical existence, and their knowledge of this system is most comprehensive. For these, there is a movement through each of your racial types, a requirement that is not laid upon most. There is intensive preoccupation with historical periods. Many of these personalities live comparatively short lives, but very intense ones, and they experience more lives than most other individuals. They return, in other words, in as many historical times as possible, finally helping to shape the world as you know it. In one way or another, you are all travelers before you begin even your first reincarnational cycle. To make it as simple as I can, I will say that you do not have the same backgrounds necessarily when you enter the physical system of reality. As mentioned earlier, earthly existence is a training period, and yet as far as possible I would like you to forget your ordinary ideas of progression. Ideas of good, better, best can lead you astray, for example. You are learning to be as completely as possible. In one way, you are learning to create yourselves. In so doing, during the reincarnational cycle, you are focusing your main abilities in physical life, developing human qualities and characteristics, opening new dimensions of activity. This does not mean that good does not exist, or that in your terms you do not quote-unquote progress, but your concepts of good and progression are extremely distorted. Now, many personalities have extraordinary talents along specific lines, and these may show up again and again in succeeding existences. They may be tempered, used in various combinations, and yet overall still remain a personality's strongest mark of individuality and uniqueness. While most people adopt different trades, occupations, and interests, for example, throughout the reincarnational cycle, with some, there will be a very noticeable line of continuity. It may be broken occasionally, but it is always there. They may be priests or teachers, for example, almost exclusively. There will be some more material in this book dwelling specifically upon reincarnation, but here I want to point out that in this time of choosing between lives, many more issues are at stake than a simple matter of proposed rebirth. On occasion, some personalities may be given an exception to the general rule and take a sabbatical from reincarnations, a side trip so to speak, to another layer of reality, and then return. Such cases are not common, however. Such matters are also decided at this time. Those who choose to leave this system, whose reincarnational cycles are finished, have many more decisions to make. Entering the field of probabilities can be compared to entering the reincarnational cycle. There will be a sustained focus of awareness and existence in an entirely different sort of reality. Powers latent but barely glimpsed within the multidimensional personality are drawn upon and used when such a choice is made. The psychological experience varies considerably from that you know, and yet there are hints of it within your own psyche. Here, the personality must learn to group events in an entirely different way, and completely without any reliance upon the time structure as you know it. In this one, as in no other reality, intellectual and intuitive abilities finally work so well together that there is little distinction between them. The self that decides upon reincarnational existence is the same self who chooses experiences within the probable system. The structure of personality, however, within the system is quite different. The personality structures of which you are familiar are but one variety of the many forms of awareness available to you. The probable system, therefore, is as complicated as the reincarnational one. Now, I have told you that all action is simultaneous. Therefore, on the one hand, you exist in both systems at once. However, to explain to you that decisions are involved, and to separate these events, I must simplify then to some degree. Put it this way. A portion of the whole self focuses in reincarnational cycles and handles developments there. Another portion focuses in probabilities and handles developments there. There is also a probable system, of course, in which no reincarnational cycles exist, and a cycle of reincarnations in which no probabilities exist. The openness and flexibility of the personality is highly important. Doorways to existence can be opened, and the personality can refuse to see them. On the other hand, all probable existence is open, and consciousness can make a door where there was none in those terms. There are guides and teachers in this time of choosing and decision to point out alternatives and to explain the nature of existence. All personalities are not at the same level of development. There are therefore advanced teachers and teachers at quote-unquote lower levels. But this is not a time of confusion, but of great illumination and unbelievable challenge. There will be later material in this book on the God concept that will help you understand some things that may remain unsaid in this chapter. Now, for those who choose to recombine, mix or match events from the immediately past life, to try it over in new ways for example, lessons must also be given. In many of these cases, there is a severe problem with a certain rigidity coupled with the perfectionist characteristics mentioned earlier. The Earth years will be experienced again, but not necessarily in continuity. The events may be used in any way the individual chooses, altered, played back the way they happened for contrast, the way perhaps an actor would play an old movie in which he appeared over again in order to study it. Only in this case, of course, the actor can change his approach or the ending. He has full freedom with the events given within those years. The other actors, however, are thought forms, unless a few contemporaries join in the affair together. Now, under these conditions, the personality manipulates events consciously, of course, and studies the various effects. The focus demanded is quite intensive. He is told the nature of those who participate with him. He realizes they are thought forms, for example, and his own, but again, thought forms do possess a certain reality and consciousness. They are not cardboard actors for him simply to push around at will. He must therefore take them into consideration, and he has a certain responsibility toward them. They will grow in consciousness and continue their own lines of development on different levels. In one way, we are all thought forms, and this will be further explained in the material dealing with the God concept. Understand, however, that I do not mean that we lack our own initiative for action, individuality, or purpose. And remember also here that you live from the inside out. Then perhaps the statement will have more meaning to you.